Alright, who had this on the bingo card for 2021? Not only did we get a major update for Quake 2 25 years after the fact, featuring a big old dedicated campaign courtesy of Machine Games, but we now have Horde mode, a multiplayer PvE experience from, again, Machine Games, the absolute mad lads. There's 4 new maps here specifically designed for it. Supports 1 to 4 players, or bots, in both local and online. And in all honesty, I was probably visualizing something a little bit more complex than what we actually got here. So, as for how this works, rules are you score points by killing enemies. Killing multiple enemies in quick succession will grant you bonus points. As for what you do with these points, not much, it's just a leaderboard thing. Your progression resets when everyone dies. That much is obvious. So if everyone dies during the course of a round, that's it. End of game. But, however, if you die during the course of the round and the rest of the team muddles through, you will be resurrected at the start of the next. Every third wave you get a boss monster, but once you kill it, it drops a silver key. Now these can be used to unlock more weapons and items, and this forms an interesting dilemma during the course of a round. It's more preference than anything in most of these maps. Do you want the grenade launcher first? Do you want the lightning gun first? But I think the one level here that actually does the most with this idea is the foundry, where you have up to 4 silver key doors, offering a little bit of a dilemma for what you really want to have pop up on the regular. So one of them, for example, will have a big med kit within, and that round does get pretty heated towards the back end. You might want to favor health over an additional weapon, so that choice does have a little bit of weight behind it. But really, you only have to survive to the 9th wave, because after the 9th wave, the gold key drops, and the gold key means you can just leave. You can keep fighting, but personally there's not all that much incentive for me to do so. Sure, a few people might heed the siren call of a high score, but other than that, it feels like there needs to be a little bit more meat on the bone here. It's a cool idea, it works, it's fun while it lasts, but it's a little too short, it's a little too threadbare, and personally I was hoping that these maps wouldn't end up just being like a single room type environment. I was hoping for a bit of progression. You get that gold key, and rather than just a straight up exit, you get another choice dilemma. Multiple rooms. Maybe one is infested with traps, maybe one has more environmental hazards to watch out for. Basically, I was just hoping for a little bit more of a sense of escalation as you move on through this mode, but maybe that'll come later on down the line, who knows. As it currently stands, it's more of a nice little diversion than anything. I don't see it staying too long on most people's regular rotations, not without a little bit extra to coax people back, but who knows, we might see that in a potential Update 3. Anything's possible. Reeling things back into the realm of Update 2, we also have an additional add-on in the form of Honey. Honey is a 2-map set created by Machine Games senior level designer Christian Grower. However, this is not a brand new creation. This is something that was originally released back in the halcyon days of 2012, and from what I can tell, was very well received. So the setup behind this has you stumbling your way into an abandoned ghost town, and upon discovering the well, you note that it is thoroughly poisoned. Naturally, being the meddling do-gooder that you are, you decide to remedy this particular problem. Only, in order to do so, you'll have to plunge into the monster-infested depths beneath the town itself. First official map here after the intro is the water supply, and the first thing you'll probably notice about it is that yes, it is astoundingly brown. This is typically what happens when you use the Cistern texture set. That said, there are plenty of elements here to ensure that the visuals don't get too repetitive. For one, the sense of scale down here is truly impressive. You feel thoroughly dwarfed in the depths of this location, and canny usage of lighting means that this location also retains a nice, mysterious atmosphere. This opening level also introduces a wondrous innovation in the form of your axe, now able to hack zombies to pieces. Why this was never the case in the first place, I'll never know, but I'm glad it exists here. As for progression through this map, typically, you're going to want to watch out for arrows. If you're not following the arrows, you're going to get pretty goddamn lost pretty goddamn quick. Thankfully, the arrows here are fairly ubiquitous, meaning that despite the visual complexity of the area, turns out that the route through it is more often than not reasonably straightforward. It's all the more impressive when you consider how the routing of this level does double back, crisscross, and in some cases overlap. but in all honesty, you'll probably be occupied with the more immediate concern of shooting things in the face. In that regard, you should expect appearances from the typical rogues gallery. You got ogres, zombies, death knights, later appearances by Vors and Scrags, and of course, the occasional surprise shambler. One memorable appearance involving a button press that opened a door and also unleashed a shambler behind, devolving into a bit of a proto-chase sequence where I discovered I didn't quite have the right tools for the job and ended up scrambling further down the way in order to find some extra ammunition. But in general, I've got almost nothing negative to say with regards to the setups and the combat and the progression here. It's all really enjoyable stuff front to back and escalates in a rather satisfying way, culminating in a almost suicidal feeling run down the larger part of the cistern down here and taking out multiple shamblers along the way. But this is all prelude. This is all set up for the main event of Honey, in my opinion, which is the second map, The Lost Temple. This map is altogether deeper, darker, and more dangerous, distinctly older feeling in relation to its earlier counterpart. And that danger largely manifests in the idea that this place extends deeper than you can imagine. Unlike the preceding level, where the bottom layer was merely the water supply, here it is whatever god-awful poison that's being pumped up into said water supply. Fortunately, however, tumbling off into the depths does not result in a game over, instead mercifully teleporting you back to the nearest ledge with a 10 HP slap on the wrist. This is good because it encourages you to be a little bit more adventurous when it comes to your hop, skipping, and a jumping across this level's ruined geometry, and trust me, there's a fair amount of that to be done. This level also peppers in an extra bit of intrigue in the form of weapon-specific shoot switches. You'll find these relatively early during the course of the level, but without the ability to take advantage of them, instead requiring you to have the likes of either the grenade launcher or the rocket launcher, respectively. If anything, the level effectively taunts you for the duration of its runtime with these switches, because it's going to be a good long while before you actually acquire, well, either of them. In the meantime, you'll have plenty of opportunity to put your shotguns and nail guns to good use, and in your journey you will also come across an interesting ogre variant. They boast a orb floating above their head, and from what I can tell via in-game flavor text, that manifests as additional firepower. So, business as usual, I guess. Still a massive pain in the ass, just, don't get hit. In any case, this section leads into an admirably spooky little aside that sees the lights dim as you enter this particular area, and then find yourself in a pillar-lined room where, wouldn't you know it, a shambler leaps out from the darkness. I knew something was coming. I knew something had to happen there, but all the same, it still managed to catch me off guard. A little bit of ruin-based parkour is all that stands in your way before you finally acquire your first explosive weapon here, the grenade launcher. Now this is oddly satisfying with regards to how it interacts with those specific shoot switches, in that you essentially fire them into a basket, where they then explode and trigger the switch. It's hard for me to explain, it just put a smile on my face. Regardless, this opens up new methods of progression, extending platforms, and essentially seeing you looping back around the level and then splintering off into newly reachable areas. It's just real clever level design. If I had to name a section of this map that I struggled with the most, however, it would certainly be this section right here. Not only was I laboring under limited reserves of health, but I also had to deal with a trio of explosive spawns, and after worming my way past those, I also had to deal with a pair of goddamn enhanced ogres. Needless to say, it took me a few attempts. Okay, it took me a lot of attempts, but either way, I managed to squeak through. My reward? A shambler to the face. Cheers! Happily, after that, the rocket launcher became part of my collection, allowing me access to the requisite rocket switches and opening up the final loop of the level. This route had me backtracking through the dark and spooky area with the pillars. No shambler this time, just a bunch of ammo. That is, until you drop back down into the shrine, and guess what? Shambler surprise! If anything, this should have been my clue that I was in the final stretch of the level, because much like the first level, it really just starts piling on the shambler encounters. Either way, you'll find yourself crisscrossing through familiar areas as you eventually worm your way around to the location of the Silver Key. This unlocks access to the pump, which you'll have glimpsed right at the start of this level. Naturally, it's guarded by 2 shamblers and a Vor, but once you've dispatched that, it's simply a case of switching the machinery off, and after that, it's just a straight shot to the exit. Oh wait, did I say straight shot? No, I actually meant a route infested by shamblers and Vors, and quite frankly, what feels like everything you've fought in the goddamn level so far, but either way, it makes for a fitting feeling final run. I'm not gonna lie, this was a tremendously satisfying pair of levels. The design just satisfies me in ways that I cannot adequately convey. I just love looping level design, the kind of stuff that returns you to a starting point, but having taken you on a wonderfully elaborate journey in order to get there. That just really tickles my pickle. But having conquered these levels, there is of course the outro, and all you need to do is exit the crypt, pat yourself on the back for a job well done, but not before one horrifying final revelation, which I will not spoil here. You're just gonna have to play it yourself, but trust me, it is worth it, and it is very spooky. All in all, I'd say that Update 2 has been a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Personally, I'm hoping that that add-on list will continue to be embellished. There's an absolute wealth of genuinely great Quake mappers out there, and it would be really nice to see them recognized as such and added to that list. I mean, sure, you can still go and find them on your own volition, download the maps from the likes of quadicted.com, figure out how to get them working within Quake, but for newcomers to Quake who have been attracted to it with this recent remaster, it's a really nice handy way for them to discover some genuine classics that may otherwise go a little underappreciated. So yeah, in that regard, I'm almost certain that we're going to see Update 3, 4, 5 in future as they continue to add to that add-on list. But what about you? Let me know what you thought about this in the comments and what your hopes are for the future of Quake. Until next time, this has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.